All right, we should be good now, man. We should be good. Peace and blessings, family. Shout out to all my troopers, man. I'm your host, CueBracey, and today I'm doing a live stream. You see the title, Who Won the Andrew Tate versus Piers Morgan Debate, right? Why did I title the video this? Because regardless of who I agree with, and I agree with both of them in this interview on different topics, regardless of who I agree with, I think we have to be very mindful about being on public, international, national platforms and how we present certain arguments or certain points of view, right? Because if we don't present these things properly, then ultimately the impact is to our detriment in many different ways I can't even think of now. It's not, you don't necessarily lose your core audience, but when you're going on a big platform like that, you have the opportunity to, you know, gain more traction and make people say, hey, it's some validity to this on the mainstream. Or you have the ability to lose traction on the mainstream. Now, I've always been the type of person to say at the end of the day, this is underground. This is men speaking to men in a manly way about certain things. And obviously, the way that you say things when you speaking to other men is not the way you would say things when you speak it to a collective group of individuals. Now, Andrew Tate has been on public platforms where he has spoken in a way that men usually speak amongst men. And so he received a lot of ridicule for that. And every man that does that in this space receives a lot of ridicule. Even the women that do it receive a lot of pushback for presenting these views in a way that's locker room talk. So when we looking at the situation, what it really boils down to is this. There are people that believe this stuff, both men and women. They understand it. They understand the statistics. They understand the impact that it has on society and the necessity for the message. And they deliver the message to the people that want to hear it. But I think that, you know, an echo chamber is, let's just say, good, right? Like in the Bible, it says that believers should deal with believers. They shouldn't deal with unbelievers, non-believers, right? At the same time, you do have people out there who can be swayed if that's actually what you in it for. So I think who won the debate is a very reasonable question, right? So let's get into it, check it out, and see what's really going on. And also, too, man, I have great news. The channel just got monetized, right? So I'm able to receive super chats. You're able to support financially now if that's in your heart. You know what I mean? If that's something you want to do. And so I'm excited about it. Things are opening up. So, you know, it's a beautiful thing. But like I said, let's get into it.
Read aloud, they can be challenged and exposed for what they are. If they're silenced, the person holding these views can become a martyr. So that's why I invited Andrew Tate to come here tonight, and he joins me now live. So Andrew, well, welcome, first of all. You come all the way from Romania to do this interview.
Correct.
What do you hope to achieve from this interview? Why are you here?
It'd be interesting to have a conversation with you. You've certainly been the subject of your own divided opinions in the world. There's a lot of people who would say some of the things you say are perhaps dangerous or toxic. So I thought you'd be a good person to speak to about this subject.
I didn't know much about you before this year, and then I suddenly became very aware of you as the world did, because, as I said earlier, you were the #1 subject searched on Google ahead of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was even possible.
Yeah.
Why did you get suddenly so popular stroke infamous, do you think?
I exploded. I certainly didn't do that with magic. I've been on the internet for a very long time. I think in the world we live in now, as the other side, the people who disagree with me, as they get more and more tyrannical in their censorships and their hate mobs, etc., as standard masculine practices are deemed toxic, I didn't put a magic spell on everybody. I managed to accumulate a large amount of affinity with the male populace across the Western world, because I'm simply saying things that many men believe, think, and feel.
The problem
he's about to tell you his problem. But what nobody can address is what he just said. What's happening, like I said on another video, is you have a change in the mindset of the marketplace. And instead of people dealing with the marketplace, they want to deal with the individuals. And men, we are not like women. We don't necessarily corral behind somebody because we have a group mentality. If men are agreeing with other men, it resonates with them as an individual. Our testosterone makes us be more individual minded. So we do things more on an individual basis, which is a lot of times when you look at the reason why men fall and things of that nature is because a lot of times it's one man or when you going against a large group of other men who has power, or one man trying to protect, his own self-interest as opposed to protecting the interest of the group. But nobody wants to deal with the idea that there's a large group of men out there who think a certain type of way. And the way that they think is the way that men have thought since the beginning of time. I just did a video on Stacey Abrams, and this was the problem with Stacey. This is the problem that Stacey Abrams is having. I did the video, and the woman said, "Black men, why don't you just get in line?" Right? And black men are simply saying, we don't agree with nothing that y'all talking about right now. We don't agree with what you represent. We don't agree with what you say. We don't agree with any of that. So you asking us to get in line with a bunch of things that we don't agree with, and you asking us to get in line with a bunch of things that go against our morals. In the Bible, it says in 2 Timothy, it says a woman shouldn't be a preacher. And when it comes down to being in the church and church business, no woman should be the head of a man. No woman should be the head of a man. And there was also a reason given. The Bible is not a gender neutral book. So when we look at these things, we have to look at the idea that the way that men are is not some social construct. It's biological. It's been suppressed because of sexual immorality and men wanting to sleep with women without having to pay the consequences. But men are paying the consequences more than ever, and they're losing. And they've been losing for the last 30 years, 30, 40 years. They losing everything, their sanity, their family, the community, their money. They losing everything. And the men that haven't lost it are watching other men lose it. And that's how we got to this point where we realize a lot of the feminist rhetoric that we bought into as men is bull crap. And not only why is it bull crap? the reason men know that a lot of the things that we've been fed is bullcrap is because women are leaving us. So all of the things that we've been conditioned and we've been taught, men saying, why when I try to be the perfect man, she ended up leaving. 70 to 80% of divorces are, women carry those out. So men are saying, damn, it's not like I fell for this and society tricked me. I fell for this and the woman that I thought was everything tricked me. So Andrew Tate, what did the lady say with Stacey Abrams? She said, I wish some of you Kevin Samuels acting, Tariq Nasheed following men would just give it up, would just leave it alone. And this is the problem. You think that what you'll see throughout this interview is that you will think, people think, such as Piers Morgan, that, pardon me, think that Andrew Tate is changing the minds of young men, talking to young men out there and changing their minds. Andrew Tate is just a figurehead that has been pushed up. Kevin Samuels is just a figurehead that has been pushed up. These men are still going to exist. These men are the reason Andrew Tate exists. They're the reason Kevin Samuels exists. Because what I'm basically saying is that Kevin Samuels didn't create the manosphere. The manosphere created Kevin Samuels. And until you really address the people that created Kevin Samuels, you're going to keep trying to chop at Kevin Samuels, and you're not going to deal with the people. And the thing is, you can't deal with them without having real solutions. It's not going to happen. So Piers Morgan is asking a question.
The problem I would say is I want to play you just a clip off the top. This is from Joe Rogan, who's somebody I absolutely love.
Sure.
And I think it explains to me what I presume my issue with you is going to be, right?
Correct.
And you
right,
you have absolutely got the right to try and persuade me otherwise.
Sure.
But Joe Rogan said this about you.
My 12-year-old and my 14-year-old asked me about Andrew Tate.
And
My 14-year-old asked me, I said, he's a legit world champion kickboxer. I go, I like him a lot. Why do you like him? And I was asking him. And they said he says a lot of funny stuff on Twitter and TikTok. He f***ed up with the misogynist stuff.
Yes.
Because if he didn't do that, if he just did the pro-male stuff.
If he didn't do that, if he just did the pro-male stuff. See, what people don't understand, and what I don't think Joe Rogan understands, is that a lot of pro-male rhetoric is considered misogynist, and that's what we have to examine. We have to ask ourselves as a society, why when men make pro-male content, they get labeled a misogynist? Why when men, this is what we have to ask. This is the essence of what we have to ask. Because pro-male philosophy is going to tell men not to prioritize certain women, to treat certain women a certain way, because it's in your best interest as a man. Watch out for these type of women, because that's in your best interest as a man. So we have to be very careful, because that's a slippery slope.
So I thought that was interesting, because when I've gone over everything that's been at the center of the debate about Andrew Tate, I come down with Joe Rogan in the sense that there's a lot of stuff you say I agree with. You know, I've got 3 sons in their 20s. It's not easy actually being a young male in the modern world. And I think a lot of the things that you say about that can resonate with them. Yeah. The problem comes with the, I don't know, 10, 20% or whatever of your output, which on the face of it appears to be blatant misogyny. And when you couple that with your massive influence and huge reach, that is why the social media companies have decided to effectively cancel you. I don't believe in cancellation. I don't believe in censorship particularly. That's why I've invited you to come on the show. But I do think a lot of the things you've said are blatant misogyny. Do you accept that?
So you made a very interesting point there. You just said on the face of it appear to be blatantly misogynistic. I understand that on the face of some of the long format content I've made, if you're going to take a few seconds out of hours, chop it up, put it all over social media, accompanied with my massive fame, then things can absolutely not be taken out of context. I do not hate women in any regard. I have no negative relationship with women. No women have come forward saying I've hurt them. I have no criminal record for hurting women. There's no way I can be seen as the face or the devil in regards to how men treat women on the planet. I'm absolutely and utterly the opposite. I believe in protecting and providing. I've been misunderstood. There's been large contingents of people who have tried very hard to purport lies about me. And the truth of the matter is I've been producing content for a very long time. Hours and hours of videos been cut down to 2 or 3 seconds of clip. Those clips have gone viral and people misunderstand me.
But I think you've used this phrase and be taken out of context. And I'm not sure that is correct in the sense that it still comes out of your mouth. And some of the things some of the things you've said, I just think are blatantly.
Well, let's do them. Let's hear them.
Let's go through some.
Sure.
Right. So you said this about Me Too / rape. This is probably 40% of the reason I moved to Romania. In Eastern Europe, none of this garbage flies. You go to the police and say he raped me back in 1988. They'll say, well, you should have done something about it back then.
Yeah, so the point I was making was obviously at the height of the Me Too scandal, and also if we look at Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, there's been a lot of high-profile cases where men have been accused of things they did not do without evidence, and their lives have been completely and utterly destroyed. Right. When I say these things, people sit and say that, oh, he hates women. I don't hate women. I think rape is disgusting. I would take a stronger stance on rape than the British government. I think these people should face the death penalty. But to sit and say that women without evidence can go forward and just make up accusations against men, even though they've been repeatedly proven to destroy men's lives at will, is absolutely not.
What about a woman who was raped back in 1988?
No. Stick with the false allegation. Stick with that. What happened during this interview a lot is Piers never conceded at all. And what happened just now with this whole misogyny debate that they're having with each other, this dance that they're doing, is that Piers Morgan has not actually defined what a misogynist is. He hasn't defined it. He's taken examples of what he thinks is misogyny, right? And he's basically telling Tate, based off of what you're saying, it's misogyny. And actually, it's just something that speaks badly about females, which is not the same as misogyny. It's not the same as misogyny. See, and this is where, you know, I think Tate allowed. Hold on, I don't think Piers was willing to change his stance on it, but I also don't think Piers was questioned about his stance and his unbridled. How can I put this? His stance on misogyny.
It goes to the police.
Then the man should face absolute and complete justice.
But you understand that when that clip appears on TikTok as a clip, and all right,
as a clip, completely.
Okay, but if still something came out of your mouth, do you accept that when that appears?
This is why Tate has to stop. This is why he lost the debate to me. Because he keeps saying that these are clips that were taken out of context when he should have just stood on what he said because it was absolutely right. He's going to do that a couple times during the debate. Because what he was saying was right, regardless if it's a clip or not. And the context doesn't matter. Because if you just take that clip and what he said, he made a great point.
On TikTok, a lot of young, maybe not as smart as you, young men, right? Impressionable, teenagers will read that and go, what's he saying here? Is he saying that rape doesn't exist?
No, I completely. I'm not going to sit here as a professional and say that I can't be taken out of context. What I will say is that one small sentence you've taken was from a 1-hour video where I explained that, of course, rape is disgusting. Of course, everybody should be punished for their crimes regardless of when they happen. But people are not perfect, male and female. And if you give women the opportunity to destroy men's lives without evidence, there's going to be a contingent of women who will do that. I'm trying to make a balanced and nuanced argument in a world where people have no attention span. They're going to take a few seconds, put it online, decide someone's good or bad, not be interested in the longer format video. And here I am. No, I'm certainly a person who takes personal responsibility. That's who I am as a person. But we live in a world now with TikTok videos 5 or 6 seconds long. There's no content.
Do you think women are the property of men?
No. The point I was making.
Why have you said they are?
Because I made a religious point. I said that when a man marries a woman, the woman's father walks her down the aisle, and hands her away to the man. Traditionally, this is what it says in the Bible. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I live in the most religious
So you do
country in the world.
think that the woman becomes the men?
I think she takes his last name.
I mean, let's watch the clip that you said about
Sure.
this so that we can get it in context.
So I think my sister is her husband's property, yes. When a bride is walking down the aisle to marry the groom, the father walks next to her and gives her away. True or false?
Absolutely.
But I've been married twice, as it turns out. And on both occasions, I didn't believe that the woman was being handed to me as chattel, as property.
See, now we have a problem. And the reason we have a problem is because we have basically moved from being property to being chattel to being a slave. This is where the conversation, what Piers is doing is he's making Andrew Tate operate out of his frame. He's making, and he already got Tate to say, no, he does not think that women are a man's property. And they're gonna go down the lane, they're gonna go down the road with this and talk about it. But I am telling you that when you talk about property, if you got to get a passport to leave America, America is saying that you are their property. The only time that we seem to have an issue with somebody saying that it's somebody with somebody claiming property to another person is when we talk about marriage. When we talk about a man having headship over his wife and his children. This is the only time we seem to have a problem with that. We don't have a problem with being property of the government. We don't have a problem. We don't have a problem with this power dynamic. The only time we have problems with this is when it's the man and the woman. And this is the feminist mindset that exists. Let's keep listening.
Perhaps the way the reason I'm asked that question repeatedly, and I'm asked in a loaded way.
So would you rephrase what you said there?
Now, that's an interesting point about phrasing. The way I would say things before I was famous, I have to take personal responsibility and accept that if I make a video that 500 people see and 1% of them misunderstand it, that's not a problem. If I make a video that 5 million people see and 1% of them understand.
So specifically on that point, I think my sister is her husband's property.
She took his last name. She married him. She wanted to join his family. She has said it herself.
Right. So she's
still a sovereign indivial. She's absolutely not a sovereign individual.
Property means that the husband owns your sister.
Listen, my friend.
That is what it is. Like, that is what it is. You don't like how it sounds, but that's what it is. And listen, another thing about this interview, Piers Morgan said he got married. He's on his second marriage. I don't understand these people. I'm not going to a marriage counselor, and I'm not taking advice from people that's been divorced. I'm not doing it. Because at the end of the day, these people never want to talk about why they got a divorce. They never want to talk about it. Is it possible that what Andrew Tate said is right, and this is how men should think and should act, therefore getting rid of the possibility of divorce because a woman does not have the authority to divorce her husband unless it's for very, very specific reasons? Or is it Piers Morgan and his modern day thinking that allows a woman to treat you like her property? Let's be very clear. When a woman is getting a divorce from a man under normal circumstances, the man is expected to pay for the woman just like she was his property. We have no problem with women benefiting from being a man's property. We just don't want it said out loud. A lot of these conversations really boil down to people in the public do not like when you say things a certain way. But if you don't say it that way, it's the only way to be said. It's the only way to be said. If I'm a man and I'm expected to protect and provide for a woman, okay, she has my children. If she leaves me, she could take half of everything. When I die, she belongs to me. I am the head of her. There's no two ways about it. And the reason why we have so many divorces in our culture is because men don't move like this anymore. Society doesn't move like this anymore. That's why we have so many broken homes. And this is why our children are so messed up. What does it mean to be somebody's property? Let's hear what Andrew Tate and Piers Morgan have to say about that.
If we want to argue about this, you need to go back to the Bible, to the Quran. You need to argue with religious.
No, I'm not talking about anything in the Bible or Quran.
But that's what it says.
No, I'm asking you what you think.
I think that if a woman marries a man and she decides to take his last name, that they have different roles and responsibilities within that marriage. And I believe that.
That's not the question.
I believe the father. The father hands her.
Don't behave like a politician.
The father hands her to the man.
Right, but don't be a politician, because I think you're a straight talker,
Sure.
right? You keep telling me you're a straight talker. I think my sister is her husband's property. Do you regret saying it like that?
I understand that with my newfound fame, perhaps it could be phrased differently. However, I still believe that a woman is given to the man in marriage. That's what I believe.
But not as property.
No,
Yes, as property.
property is the word that other people use when they ask me the question.
But as an equal
Don't
partner.
do that, Tate. Just say yes. Just say yes.
In a loving union. That's what marriage actually means. It doesn't mean that when you get married, the woman is given to you as a bit of chattel.
Agreed.
So why say it?
But that's the way that people ask me the question.
Hold on, no.
I think my sister is her husband's.
See, Piers is playing fast and loose. Piers is playing fast and loose. He's playing fast and loose. What is property? That which a person owns. What is chattel? What is chattel? The meaning of chattel is an item of tangible, movable, or immovable property, except real estate and things such as buildings connected with real property. So basically, it was once used to describe slaves as cattle, which is why referring to something, basically, like I said, the word chattel is used for slavery, basically. And so Piers is playing fast and loose because he's moving from it's just like if I say a verb, you have an adverb, you have a proverb, you have different type of verbs. But when you say that somebody is property, it does not mean that you saying that they are every type of property. It's saying that I possess her. She's in my possession now. The woman is in my possession now. I am responsible for her.
Property. Do you regret saying it like that?
I understand that with my newfound fame, perhaps it could be phrased differently. However, I still believe that a woman is given to the man in marriage. That's what I believe.
Yeah, but not as property.
No, the property is the word that other people use when they ask me the question.
But as an equal partner in a loving union.
This is the feminism coming up for Piers. This is why I disagree with Piers here, but he's winning the debate. Why is he winning the debate? Because watch this.
Marriage actually means. It doesn't mean that when you get married, the woman is given to you as a bit of chattel.
Agreed.
See how he agreed? He was not supposed to agree there. He was not supposed to agree. He was supposed to disagree with that point. Because marriage is not a loving union with an equal partnership. It's just not. Marriage is a business. And it's not an equal partnership. And there are love is you once again, just like property, is not equal, and we have to define what love is. We have to define what love is. Because the Disneyland love, the Disney World love, what kind of love is Piers talking about? See, the reason why I thought Tate lost this is because he spent a lot of time defending his points. He spent a lot of time defending his points and not really having Piers Morgan clarify his position. I was listening to a Chicago writer once, and he said that it's not your job as a writer to expose everything in your mind. Your job as a writer is to get the reader to expose everything in their mind, or for you to have some level of intuition about what's in the reader's mind and to get the reader to change their mind. But you're not going to change the reader's mind by exposing everything that's in your mind. You're going to change the reader's mind by exposing everything that's in their mind. This is some Jedi shit. This is next level. And so right now, the reason why Andrew Tate is losing is because he's exposing everything that's in his mind. He's not actually having Piers Morgan expose anything that's in his mind. So we don't really know what Piers Morgan means when he says a loving relationship. What it also says that people tend to forget in the Bible is, yes, husbands are to love their wives like they love their own body. But wives are to respect their husbands. Let's keep listening.
So why say it?
But that's the way that people ask me the question. People say to me, they ask the
Oh,
question.
hang on. You can't blame people for asking you questions. Surely,
Tate
if
is
you want to be
losing.
accountable for what you've said, you've got to own your responses, not blame the question.
I own the response.
You know, me asking you a question now and you say something and then say, well, actually, I blame you for asking.
I understand, Piers. Piers, I understand. I believe the woman is given to the man. I believe she's given away by the father. I believe she belongs to the man.
So fundamentally, all right. So fundamentally, you do believe that a woman becomes a man's property at marriage.
I believe she belongs to the man in marriage, correct.
Right. Oh, you see, that to me is misogyny.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Right. But do you not understand why people think...
Yeah, and that to me is not misogyny. To me, that's husbandry. To me, that's biblical. To me, that's natural. To me, that's natural.
It is misogyny.
I understand why some people can be very offended by what I say. What they do is they take a point like that and they ignore all the other points I make the other way around.
Yeah, but that's why I've repeatedly asked you about that.
Like
line,
what?
to see if you've changed your.
What about saying that a woman belongs to a man means you hate women? Once again, Andrew Tate never made Piers Morgan even say what misogyny means to him to make sure they on the same page. Piers Morgan hasn't even said what misogyny is to him. Right now, the way that it sounds like Piers Morgan, based off what Piers Morgan is saying, it sounds like he's saying anything that is speaking, pardon me, in not a beautiful way about women is misogyny. Anything that's a little not easy to hear is misogyny. And I couldn't disagree more.
Your position, but the reality is you haven't.
It's not about changing positions. I'm a full-grown adult and I stick by the things I say and I'm responsible for them.
Which, by the way, is fine.
Absolutely.
But what you did say at the start of this little exchange, you said, you know, I wouldn't maybe say things the same way now that I did before I was famous. And yet, actually, you've doubled down and said exactly the same thing.
On certain points.
So that is what you believe. That's my point.
Yes.
I'm trying to work out, look, I don't know you. We've just met, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out who Andrew Tate is and what you actually believe. I don't want to twist anything at all.
Then maybe make it very, very clear to the camera.
No, that's not what you're doing, Piers. What Piers Morgan is doing, which I love Piers. I told y'all that. I watch his shows. What Piers Morgan is actually doing is, let's rewind what he said he's trying to do.
Same way now that I did before I was famous. And yet, actually, you've doubled down and said exactly the same thing.
On certain points.
So that is what you believe. That's my point.
Yes.
I'm trying to work out, look, I don't know you. We've just met, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out who Andrew Tate is and what you actually believe. I don't.
No, that's not what you're doing. You're actually interjecting what you believe and telling Andrew Tate what he is based off what you believe. You're not actually just listening to him. You're actually trying to get him to defend a point based off you saying that you don't believe the point that he's talking about, which is sort of like in the black community, it's sort of like what we call like Sambo. We used to call like an Uncle Tom. In a way, Piers Morgan, even if he actually is a certain way, it seems as if he's actually a feminist, and he errs on the side of feminism. And you know, he made comments about people that got him canceled, but he's like, look, just like Tate is up there saying, look, all the things that I said that was in agreement with feminism. So guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna bring somebody up, or I'm gonna bring people up, and I'm gonna battle them on the points that I agree with about, you know, feminism and these things. Piers Morgan hasn't changed, is what I'm basically saying. But the point is, Piers Morgan is not purely just trying to get to know who Andrew Tate is. Piers Morgan is interjecting himself in the situation. He's not like, well, how did you derive at that point? Okay. No, when Andrew Tate says, yes, I think that the woman belongs to the men, Piers Morgan then says, I disagree, and it becomes about agreeing or disagreeing. It's no longer about him trying to refine or distill down the points that Andrew Tate is making. So he's being disingenuous and still winning the debate.
I don't want to twist anything.
And Andrew Tate is still right.
At all.
Then maybe make it very, very clear to the camera. I believe a woman is given to the man in marriage. I believe that. I also believe a man has a duty to protect and provide for her. I believe a man should lay down his life if something happens or his wife's life is threatened. I believe that women and children first are on the lifeboats.
But men,
I believe that men.
But a man doesn't own a woman.
It's not. No. It's
unless they literally buy them as a slave.
Well, obviously, we're not talking about that. We're talking about religious, biblical.
Buy as a slave. What is he talking about? What should a man expect from a woman that he marries? None of this is clear. None of this is clear. I don't even know how we progress to the point of slavery right now. I don't know how we progress to that point. So what is Piers talking about? If I got a wife and I believe that my wife should clean the dishes and this, that, and the third, is that slavery? If I have a wife and I believe that if I tell her not to do something, if I tell her she can't do something, she can't do it. What does he mean when he says slavery? Without Andrew Tate knowing that, he's punching at ghosts. He's punching at the air. So Piers keeps using these terms, chattel, slavery, these big terms, and Andrew Tate is not clarifying anything. I don't know what Piers is talking about right now, because it could be some things that Piers sees as slavery that I don't see as slavery. Let's keep listening.
Marriage. We're talking about something else.
Yeah, but I'm a Christian. I don't believe that I own my wife.
Do you believe your wife was given away to you when she took your last name?
I believe that there is a process where a father traditionally walks his daughter down the aisle and hands his daughter to this man, and they stand there and become a union of two loving people in a partnership. No, there's no ownership involved.
I didn't say ownership.
He's not selling her. The father of the bride isn't selling his daughter.
No, absolutely.
That's what property means.
She becomes a member of your family.
Is it?
I think we're arguing over semantics.
We're not, though, because fundamentally, I don't believe a man owns a woman. You do.
Well, I don't think a man owns any sovereign individual. I don't think we live in the world of slavery.
We didn't say a man owns a woman. Once again, Piers is reaching and he's misquoting. We talking about a wife, and this is also what one of the problems that we have in society right now is nobody is differentiating the difference between men talking about wives versus men talking about women. What Andrew Tate is saying is that if you are a woman and you want to be a wife, there's certain things that men are going to find acceptable, and there's certain things that men are going to find unacceptable. You can like that, you can hate that, you can disagree with that all you want, but it does not change the fact that men, if you meet a woman who's 25 years old, she probably has some baggage. You have to ask yourself, why is she 25 years old and she's still on the market? Now, you have to ask that question. You have to ask, why is a 25-year-old woman still on the market if you're that good? You have to ask yourself, if you meet an 18-year-old woman, you have to ask yourself, does she have the proper training? What is her past? When you're dealing with a woman, you got to ask what their past is, regardless. You have to send women through that line of questioning if you want to have the probability of having a good wife, of having a long-lasting marriage. What's her background? If you do not ask these questions, the likelihood of a divorce, the likelihood of your children being raised in ways that you don't believe in increases significantly. So we gotta make the distinction between a man speaking about a wife and talking about qualifications for a wife. We've already established that men love women. Most men love women. But women are complaining because men are not complying with what Rollo Tomasi calls the script. Women want to go out, have fun, and party, and then they want Prince Charming to be waiting. And men are not complying with that. Most men are saying, nah, I'm good. You got a baby, you got this, you got that. I don't want to deal with that. Most men are saying that. That doesn't make you a misogynist because you don't want to marry this woman. It doesn't mean that you don't like her. It just means that you don't want to marry her. It doesn't even mean that you won't date her and play house a little bit. Some guys do that because they like her. But a lot of men are saying no to even making that girl their girlfriend. So we have to have some level of, we have to distinguish the difference between men talking about regular everyday females that they would just hook up with versus women they want to marry. And women have to understand that those two are like oil and water. And the women are the ones complaining, by the way. Yes, you have men that have their gripes, but for the most part, it's the women that's like, where's the man when I'm ready for him to be ready? I had my fun. I'm ready to settle down. Men like, I don't care. I don't want to marry you. You had your fun. And for most men, they just now starting to have their fun when women done having fun. So if she didn't have you locked down before you started having fun, the likelihood of you not having fun when you just started is low. And that's what women upset about. And also, all the reasons why men would marry a woman, men are very practical. Most of the times we're going to marry a woman because we want children and we want to raise a solid family. If women not given that option, then a lot of men not going to get married.
Slavery. I don't own any man or any woman.
Right.
Nobody owns
When
anybody.
you use phrases like property, that's what you imply. That's
I understand.
And so my point again is, you're a smart guy, right?
That contract that you sign in marriage is a contract of ownership. If it's obligations in there, it's ownership. It's a form of ownership.
No denying that. You're a smart, you're a good talker. I've seen a lot of the stuff. But when you, what I don't think you quite fully understand.
No, I understand
is that
very well.
When
Piers.
young, impressionable people
I understand
who are
that very
not
well.
as smart see things like, I think my sister is her husband's property, yes, and you've just reaffirmed that, that belief. They think that they have the right to own women.
I understand that very.
Excuse me, Piers. For you to speak for young people and what young people think is absurd. It's the same thing that women try to do to basically say that they're a better parent. I don't think Piers really has a grasp. I don't think he's done a survey. I think Piers is pulling this out the air. I think Piers has already said how he feels. Therefore, he's going to say that the children feel that way. And this is why we have to get back to family. Family is the future. The reason why we have to get back to family is because it's too many people arguing over the agency of children. It's too many people arguing about who should have say over the children. And if we had more families, we wouldn't have that problem. As a father, if I think that my children are digesting information that is misandrous, or misogynist, I'm going to have a conversation with my children about that. I'm going to tell them they can't watch it. But that's for me as a parent to decide and to decipher. But I hear Miss Andrews stuff all the time, and I don't hear anybody talking about it. And I hear a lot of things that sound like fun that really are disguised as hatred. See, it's a slippery slope. It's a very slippery slope. If you be like, you know, only thing a man good, if you ain't nothing going on but the rent, is that Miss Andrews, or is that just reality?
Very well, Piers.
That's why people think you're a misogynist.
Completely. I understand all of this very well, which is why when you're saying I was backtracking, I'm not.
Do you have any regret, though, over the way you phrase this stuff?
Well, this is the point I was trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is when I was not nearly as famous and I was making long format content, I was not sitting there anticipating I'd become the most Googled man on the planet and that a few seconds could be taken out of context. That was not my anticipation.
No, but it's still what you believed. It's what you believe now. So what's the difference?
It's not about, you're asking me, you're saying that young people who are impressed.
If you said to me, look, Piers, honestly, I've had time to think about this and I wish I hadn't said it. I don't believe that. That's one thing. Actually, you said the opposite. You said, actually, that's what I think. Yeah.
I think that when
it doesn't really matter whether you recorded it when you're famous or not famous. It's what you actually believe, right?
I believe that a man has a duty to protect and provide for a woman. I believe that a woman's father gives her away to the man. That's what I believe, and that's in my marriage. That's the circumstance I'm going to live under. If people want to live in a different scenario, that's completely theirs. Their prerogative.
You went on to say about authority over women. If I have a responsibility over, I must have a degree of authority.
Yeah.
For the same reason, if I have responsibility over and people are going to use their mind, it's an example, an analogy. Responsibility over a child, I have to have some authority.
Yeah.
So you believe as part of your ownership or your property of the woman, you have authority over her.
No, I believe if you have
that's what you said.
I believe if you have responsibility over something, you have to have a degree of authority or you can't be responsible.
Yeah, but authority means, again, that you're the boss.
The point I'm making.
What's wrong with him being the boss? What's wrong with him being the boss? To me, it's Miss Andrews. Why don't nobody want the man to be the boss? You got a boss, Piers.
If you'll please let me finish
sure.
At this point. The point I was trying to make was talking about the safety of a woman. She was walking alone at night. And I was saying, well, I wouldn't let my woman walk alone at night. And I said, well, you're not in charge of her. You don't get to decide what she does. I said, I understand, but if I'm...
Man, it's about my safety. It's about my reputation. It's about me. It ain't about the safety of no woman. Because if she not safe, I'm not safe. Because now I got to put myself in a position. And a lot of people don't understand this about the red pill. But one of the things that we talk about, which they hitting on right now, is the whole idea of accountability with no authority. And Morgan Piers is okay with accountability, but no authority. And Andrew Tate is making a soft argument. Right now, he could put Piers on his toes. He could put Morgan Piers on his toes right now. Because he could simply ask Morgan Piers, why don't you want me to have any authority? What is it about today's society that doesn't want men to have authority?
Responsible for her safety. And I'm the person who's burdened with making sure she is safe. I have to have the authority to say, don't put yourself in unsafe situations. The two things are linked.
Well, you don't have authority. You can absolutely have the right to say to the woman you're with, I don't think you should. But ultimately,
if she decides, then I can't force her.
Right. So authority implies that you have the ability to control someone.
No, authority believes the authority.
No, it doesn't. That's bogus. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That's not. Once again, Piers is playing very loose with these words. Authority means that I am the head, the leader. Ownership, authority, all of those words mean leadership. And you have children, don't you? And you can tell your kids whatever, but you once they get a certain age, it's very difficult to stop your kids if they say they're going to do something. What can you do to your kids, though, if they don't listen? You can kick them out. Same thing with your girl. You can kick her out, or you can decide you don't want to be in a relationship no more. And what God's is saying and what Piers Morgan is not understanding is that if a man doesn't have authority, he's not going to want to be present.
He implies that I have the moral right to sit and say that that's an irresponsible thing to do, and I'm responsible for
That's not what authority means.
Well, I'm not going to. If you think I'm going to lock somebody up in their room, is that what you're implying?
No, I don't think you know what authority means.
I know what it means. I'm saying that if
Well,
I
just a different description of what authority
if
means.
I have responsibility for her safety, then I have to have the authority to tell her not to do unsafe.
Yeah, but authority means that you have some form of control over.
Forget that safety stuff. That's the problem. That's why I say he's backsliding right now. Forget that safety stuff, man. Because you're trying to sway him. You're trying to sway Piers by leaning into your responsibility to protect her. And your authority goes beyond protecting. This is how I want my family to look. This is how I want my family to represent me. A lot of people say they're Christians, but they're not. A lot of people say they're Christians, but they're not. Right? Let's look at what 2 Timothy says. Let's look at 2 Timothy. And for people that hit me up and they be like, where was that scripture? I'm giving it to you now. So let's deal with the scripture as is written. No me making stuff up. This is not me, Quentin, making stuff up. Is it 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy? Let's see. First Timothy chapter 3. 1 Timothy chapter 3 says qualifications for overseers and deacons. Qualifications for overseers and deacons. Let's read it. Here's a trustworthy saying. Whoever aspires to be an overseer desires a noble task. Now, the overseer is to be above reproach, faithful to his wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own family well. Whose family? His family. And see that his children obey him. And he must do so in a manner worthy of full respect. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church? He must not be a recent convert, or he may become conceited and fall under the same judgment as the devil. He must also have a good reputation with outsiders, so that he will not fall into disgrace and into the devil's trap. In the same way, deacons are to be worthy of respect, sincere, not indulgent in much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. They must hold of the deep truths of the faith with a clear conscience. They must first be tested, and then if there is nothing against them, let them serve as deacons. In the same way, the women are to be worthy of respect, not malicious talkers, but temperament and trustworthy in everything. A deacon must be faithful to his wife and must manage his children and his household well. Those who have served well gain an excellent standing and great assurance in their faith in Christ Jesus. So if you are a man who has a family, it is absolutely your responsibility to manage that family well. Your reputation, these things matter. So for Piers Morgan, let's rewind what he said.
I'm going to lock somebody up in their room. Is that what you're implying?
No, I don't think you know what authority means.
I know what it means. I'm saying that if
Well, just a different description of what authority.
If I have
Authority
responsibility,
is just what I said. You are charged. A man is charged with the responsibility of managing his family. That's authority. The man is charged with managing his family.
for her safety, then I have to have the authority to tell her not to do unsafe.
Yeah, but authority means that you have some form of control over this woman.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with having control? Is it Miss Andress that we don't want men to have control? What's wrong with a man having control?
I think you're trying to, what you're trying to do.
I'm only trying to get to what you think. Honestly, I am. I come with no agenda here at all.
I understand. And I'm explaining very, very clearly. If I have responsibility over said subject, I have to have
you have come with an agenda, which is to say what you agree and disagree with.
Authority of it. So let me say you have children, right?
Right.
You have responsibility for them.
No, I have legal authority over my children. That is very different to having legal authority over my wife or my female partner.
Completely. But the point I'm trying to make.
So you accept that?
I accept that.
Because you used the analogy of responsibility for a child.
My friend, these are
actually really important things.
They're important things, but you interrupt me every 5 seconds. So it's hard for me to actually explain my point. The point I'm making here is very simple. You have children and you're responsible for their safety. So you're going to have authority to say, don't go out at night, perhaps because you want them to be safe.
I have legal authority.
You have a legal authority.
Yeah.
Legal authority.
You have legal authority over your wife. And this is also, to me, where a lot of people lose me. This is where a lot of people lose me, because a lot of people say they're Christians, this, that, and the third, and then they run back to the law. Like the law is right. The law is not always right. So you telling me that just because the law doesn't say it, it means that it's not so? This is the issue that we're having, is that you can't go back and forth between what is right versus wrong based off what's legal versus illegal. You understand what I'm saying? This is the problem. There are plenty of things that's legal that's wrong, and there are plenty of things that's illegal that's right.
I'm saying that if I had a woman, and the question where you've raised this soundbite from, I was asked about protecting a woman, making sure she's safe. And I would say I wouldn't want her to go out at night on her own because I'm responsible for her safety. And someone said, well, you don't have authority over her to do that. And I said, well, no, I can't force her to stay inside. But if she were to ask me, how do I protect myself at night? I would say, well, you should stay inside. That's how you should do it.
I don't have an issue with what
So
you
we
just
agree.
Said. No.
It's the semantic.
So now, once again, Tate is taking a softer stance. Really, the question is, do I have freedom to deal with said woman, or do I not have the freedom to choose whether I want to deal with a woman like that or not? These are all men's preferences. Nobody's saying that these things, if a man and a woman want to deal with each other, if you're dealing with a man that say he want control, if you're dealing with a man who says that you belong to him, if you're dealing with that type of man, then you got to be willing to deal with everything that comes with it. I think a lot of times, especially nowadays, we have a lot of penis controlling. We have a lot of men getting involved in other men's business, telling them how to run their household, and they barely can run their own damn household. So so at the end of the day, if it's anything that, you know, Andrew Tate says or any other man says about how they're going to run their household, if you don't agree with that, it doesn't matter, because if he finds a woman who agrees with that, then that's the only thing that matters. And if there are other men who agree with him and that's how they want to raise their household, who are you to intervene and say that what a person is saying is dangerous because other men agree? They already felt that way. They just found somebody who was saying how they already felt. And I think that's what happens a lot is, once again, people think that Kevin Samuels influenced the manosphere. The manosphere influenced Kevin Samuels. And so even though you might come at Andrew Tate, you're not going to hide the natural tendencies that men have. Shout out to whoever's in the building, man. Peace and blessings. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, the first day of the week. Let's keep going.
No, it's not semantics. And this is what I don't think you quite get why there's a furore over what you say, with respect. Because the semantics point would be we're saying the same thing in different ways, but we're not. I'm saying to you that when you say I have to have some authority over a woman, I say to you, you have no right to any authority over a woman. You do over a child if it's your child.
Now, what Piers is not understanding is that the stance that he is taking right now to say that a man does not have any responsibility, any power over a woman is fine. But that's why men are not marrying women right now. That's why women are complaining, where are all the good men? Wooty, wooty, woo. No man is going to sign up for a situation where he has responsibility with no authority. And therein lies the problem. We are not okay with men's choices to not engage with these women. Elon Musk just came out saying that we have a shortage of recreation, right? The problem is not overpopulation, is that we don't have enough people populating the United States and the Western countries right now, because men and women are not getting together. They have the same problem in Japan, because men are not going to deal with women in the way that Piers Morgan is talking about. And I don't even think Piers Morgan deals with women in the way that he's talking about.
Because you are the legal appointed guardian of that child.
Understood.
You're not a legally appointed guardian or authority over your wife or female partner.
Because you are the biological. If you did a DNA test, you know it ain't because of the legal. It's not because of the legal. Because actually, if you know anything about the law, since we're talking about the law, and that's why I said I think Andrew Tate lost the debate, even though I believe him. But if you know anything about the law, okay, at the end of the day, when you get a social security number, you sign, you give the state agency over your children, period. That's why you go to family court and they treat you a certain type of way, because y'all all plugged into the system. But we don't have a problem with that type of ownership, though. Let's keep listening.
Absolutely not. I agree. However, when it comes to things like personal responsibility or personal safety, men, largely by society, are accepted. We're the protectors and providers. We can sit here and pretend that in the world we live in, if me and my wife were walking down the street and men were to come up and try and attack us, I wouldn't be the one fighting. But we both know in reality I would.
Right.
I have a degree of responsibility to protect her. So if I have a degree of responsibility to protect her physically, then the point I'm trying to make is I will do my best to make sure she's never putting herself in unsafe situations.
Do you wish you hadn't used the word authority?
The authority is something that she would give to me. She would come to me and say, how can I make sure I'm as safe as possible?
But I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to point out that's not what authority means.
Yes, it does. People give other people authority over them all the time.
A person can give
voluntary authority is not authority.
No, but that's the point.
No, see that's crazy. That's crazy how Piers is playing with words.
If a woman, Piers,
Andrew, stop.
Piers, if a woman comes to me and says, I want you to keep me safe, she is handing me authority for her safety.
But do you understand the difference between having authority over somebody and somebody giving you permission to have authority?
Completely. I never said
one is consensual and one isn't.
But why are we pretending I do unconsensual things?
Because you literally say, I must have a degree of authority. I have to have some authority. And the point
only if I'm responsible for her safety.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying I have to have that in order to engage with a woman. See, Andrew Tate talking about her preferences. He not talking about his preferences no more, which he should be. If I don't want to engage with a woman I don't have authority over, it's nothing in it for me. It's nothing in it for me.
Safety. If I'm not responsible for her safety, I don't have authority.
If your position now is that with her permission, I would like to have authority when we go out at night to protect her, that's a different
That was
thing.
always my position.
But that's not what you said.
But that was always my position.
So again, I simply say to you,
It is what I said.
Do you wish you'd phrased it a different way?
No, because we're talking about long format copy where I'm talking about a woman who has come to me and said, you're responsible for making sure I'm safe. I said, well, then I have to make the decisions.
But an 18-year-old boy...
See, that's not right, Tate. That's not right. It's not like a woman just come up and you have to accept that. And you could be on the offensive. You could be going up to her saying, I really like you and I want to protect and provide for you.
I must have some authority over a woman. What do you think he thinks?
Well, I understand that. And I said this earlier when you tried to say I was backtracking, which I'm not doing.
No, actually, I'm not. I don't want to.
Okay.
I'm not trying to gotcha you.
Cool.
I'm trying to work out exactly what you.
I understand with massive fame comes massive responsibility. I understand that a percentage of the population are always going to take everything that's said by anybody out of context.
Would you change the wording of what you said?
No, I would just encourage people to watch my long format copy and understand it
Would
fully.
you tell an 18-year-old boy you don't have authority over women?
Absolutely.
You would say that?
Unless a woman comes to him and says, you're responsible for my safety, please make sure keep me safe. Like
I see. Now that Andrew Tate, I can sign up to.
Well, then we agree.
Yeah, but I don't agree with what you said before.
Because you're taking a soundbite from a 2-hour.
No, because you're not standing on it. You're not standing on it. Authority is authority. What does authority mean? The power or right to give orders, make decisions, and enforce obedience. If the power or right, that does not mean, just like right now, you don't have to have a driver's license. But if you do, you've given the state the power or right. Power is always given, but that doesn't mean that power is that authority is taken. Like I said, he's basically being fast and loose with the rules. He's changing the definition of words. Let's keep listening.
But you haven't been taken out of context because I read you the entire sentence. It's very.
But you've ignored all the context around the sentence, my friend.
You can't ignore a sentence that says, I must have a degree of authority.
But you can when there's a 2-hour conversation where a woman is telling me if she makes me responsible for her safety and me explaining, well, if I'm responsible for your safety, I have the authority to make decisions. So yes, you've ignored all the context.
Do you respect women?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
Do you think that 18, 19-year-old women are more attractive than 25-year-old women?
I think there's attractive people. That's a loaded question. I don't know.
Well, it's not really, is it?
I can't.
You know why I'm asking you?
Of course I do, but I can't sit here and
say.
For
the benefit of viewers who don't know why I'm asking, you said this. In general, this is also one of the reasons men find youth attractive. You want to blow up the internet? I'll blow up the internet right effing now. The reason 18 and 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25-year-olds is because they've been through less dick. People say, oh, you can't say that, but yes, I can. A 19-year-old is more attractive than a 26-year-old woman, and I'll tell you why. Because that 26-year-old has talked to more guys, been to the club more times, been effed and dumped more times, more arguments, more mess, more for me to clean up. That is misogyny.
Why?
Because you are encouraging a mindset about 25-year-old women that makes them sound out to be infinitely less desirable than 18, 19-year-olds.
And I like what Tate is going to say right here. Let's hear what he says.
Having effectively been having too much sex to be taken
This is a view that's been held. This is truth. Let's keep listening.
more respectful way.
That would, well, firstly, even if that was the case, that wouldn't be misogyny.
But what did you mean by what you said?
That's not misogyny because it's not anti-women. I'm saying that an 18 or a 19-year-old woman would be more desirable.
Pretty anti-25-year-old woman.
Anti-25-year-old women we can argue, but not misogyny.
Well, that's misogyny.
No, it's not.
No, we shouldn't argue anti any type of woman. That's where you keep getting into trouble.
Anti any woman at all is misogyny.
Not when I'm saying that women are beautiful and attractive at a certain age and saying the age.
You're saying 18, 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25.
Well, than ageist perhaps, but misogynistic absolutely.
Is that
not.
But you just accepted it was misogyny.
No, I didn't. You said it was misogyny. I'm telling you, no, it's not.
So you don't think if you're saying slightly hateful things about a 25-year-old...
That's not slightly hateful.
Well, it is. You think
No, it's not.
you say that to a woman's face if she's 25?
It's not slightly.
Would you say something to that woman's face? Like, at the end of the day, this question has nothing to do with hate. There's a lot of things that you would or wouldn't say in front of somebody's face because it serves no purpose. But, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, it is something that he has said to women's face. It's something that many men say to women's face.
Slightly hateful. When
So you would go up to a 25-year-old woman and tell her exactly what I just read out?
Why would I walk up to a random 25-year-old
Because you said it in public
and
on
say
the
that?
internet, and it's been listened to and watched by millions and millions of young,
Correct.
impressionable boys.
Correct. There was a large panel. There was a conversation. There was hours long of conversation. There were feminists attacking men for toxic masculinity and attacking me and saying things. And I said things back which were going to antagonize
them.
Which you've done yourself a bunch of times.
I think a lot of allegations of toxic masculinity are not toxic.
Correct.
I do think that kind of sentence that I just read out, that paragraph, is actually toxic. If you genuinely mean that, and you say you wouldn't say it to a woman's face, but you said it in public about women of that age, I do think that's misogynist. And I think you probably do too.
I don't think it's misogynistic. I understand why it can be insulting.
You wouldn't say it to a woman's face?
Well, it depends. You're making out like I'm walking around the street going up to random 25.
Well, you're doing it to tens of millions of people online. There's no difference.
Not at all. We're discussing a topic. We were discussing the ideal age of.
If it's no difference, then why make it a difference? What point is Piers trying to get at here? I don't really see the point of what Piers is saying. Listen, at the end of the day, saying that a woman is more attractive than another woman, generally speaking, is not hateful toward the women you said are less attractive. It's not hateful.
Man.
Should young boys, right, in their teens, are you comfortable that they would have that mindset? Be honest.
I think that young boys in their teens lack life experience. They lack nuance. And they need to be very, very careful what they're digesting online.
And plus, when you online and make you say, is this video for kids 18 or older? You understand? So listen, there's certain things 18-year-old boys need to know. There's certain things that young boys need to know. And young boys need to know that when you get with a woman, you want a woman that has less baggage, as few bodies as possible. You want a woman in her prime, and you don't want a woman that's leaving out of her prime. You know, now, I don't think the ages that he gave was good ages. I think, 18 versus a 32-year-old would be a little bit different. But 18 and 25, I actually, a woman is in her prime at 25. I said this before on another video. But the sentiment of what he's saying is that what makes a woman attractive to a man has an expiration date. And if you are a woman past that expiration date, don't be surprised if men not attracted to you.
Whether it's my content or anybody else's.
Yeah,
I think
for a fact, millions of them are digesting exactly what you're saying.
Completely. The entire internet to a degree. I think any subject you can find, there's going to be a whole heap of
I come back to the Joe Rogan thing, Andrew. Is that a lot of what you say, I agree with.
Yeah.
Right? I do, genuinely. I've read a lot of stuff you said. A lot of the stuff you talk about, I think, he's got a good point, right? So we agree about a lot of things. But when I read that kind of thing, I'm like, how much of that is you? how much of that is some act? Do you regret saying stuff like this?
I don't.
And actually, do you see it as weakness to admit you shouldn't have said something like that?
No, I don't live with regret. I think what's happened is that, like I said, long format content, arguments with feminists, arguments with the toxic masculine crowd, arguments with the left, and they're going to take a small clip, small sentence from ours, and they're going to try and paint me as a
But
villain.
I'm not left or right.
Yes, you are.
I don't know what you are. Piers.
Yes,
Exactly.
you are. And the fact that you said you don't know what Piers is means that you showed up to the interview and you didn't do research on the person interviewing you. Piers is a feminist. Come on, Tate.
That's my point. No, but that's my point.
And I understand. And you're doing exactly as I knew would happen on this interview, which is because you're a busy man. You're not going to watch hours and hours and hours of video.
Actually, I have watched hours and hours of video, and I'm going to come to the stuff where I agree with you, and I'm going to come to the stuff about your censorship, which
Sure.
I have issues with. So this is, it's a long interview, right?
Sure.
I just thought off the top, you said to me, and you were quite bold about it. Well, go on, then let's go through these.
And you should keep going. I will sit here and stand by what I said. I believe that
on
man.
that, I've just read to you. Then.
Yeah.
Do you wish you hadn't said that?
See, he keep trying to get him. He keep trying to get him to backtrack. What's happening is Tate is not. He's not coming out and just saying it that he regret what he's saying, but he has not gotten into Piers's head at all.
I understand how it's been misconstrued. I understand how it's been weaponized against me. Do I
And he's
regret it
playing the
because it's been
victim.
weaponized and used against me? Well, that's slightly annoying.
That's not why I want you to
did I
regret.
at the time mean what I said in the context of the conversation, which obviously you're not familiar with and the people at home are not familiar with? No, I meant what I said.
The 25-year-old women, they've just talked to more guys, been to the club more times, been effed and dumped more times, more arguments, more mess, more for me to clean up.
Well, there's a whole bunch of context and conversation around that's been missed, and I
I don't
encourage
think I'm
people-
missing much context.
Well,
It's pretty-
I encourage people who are interested to go watch it.
But I mean, I've just read out 3 sentences on the bounce there. I don't think there's any context I'm missing. I mean, you made it pretty clear what you think about the difference between 18 and 90-year-old women.
I wasn't
and
talking about
26-year-olds.
myself, even. I was talking with a Muslim guy who was on the panel, and he was explaining how youth is very valued in most parts of the world, and why virginity is valued in most parts of the world. The feminists were arguing against it, and I was sitting there, actually very much like you, a mediator between the two, explaining why in most of the world still today, perhaps not in the Western world, virginity is coveted.
In the Western world too.
Youth is coveted in most of the world and throughout all of human history. And I was sitting there making the point, explaining why in certain parts of the world they think how they do,
Well, in large parts of the world,
even though it's very different to the Western world. So I was making a point, mediating between two groups very similar to yourself. The conversation has been misunderstood. They've taken this clip of it and it's being weaponized and used against me. I understand that it's because I'm now the most famous Google person on the planet. It's inconvenient, sure. But I'm definitely not a danger to women in any regard. I date women 25, 26, 27 years old all the time. None of them are offended by the things
I don't
say.
think you're a danger to women.
Of
I
course
think
not.
I think the danger, if it concerns you, the danger is the influence you have on young men to have this kind of mindset about women. And that's really where I'm trying to get to what you really believe and how much you've just shot off.
Everybody, what I've noticed in this space, right, is that nobody wants men to think differently than they have over the last 30, 40 years. Nobody. What they keep arguing about over and over and over again with Jordan Peterson, with all of these people, what they keep arguing about is men's influence on other young men, which is a disingenuous conversation. It's a disingenuous conversation. It is what it is.
Because you think it's like entertaining and you haven't really given it much thought. And whether now you're a bit older and you've had all the fallout, whether part of you is thinking, actually, if I had, as Joe Rogan says, if you hadn't said stuff like this, you'd probably still be on these platforms. You'd be massively more popular, massively more famous, massively rich.
Yeah, whatever. There's plenty of people that haven't said things like that and they got banned. So even you, Piers. So what are you talking about?
So I'm really just trying to get to, on the blatantly misogynist stuff, do you just wish you hadn't said it?
With great power comes great responsibility. It was certainly said before the great power came. It's inconvenient.
Just give a straight answer.
However, like I said at the time, with the context of the conversation, I know that I'm not saying things which I believe to be detrimental to the world. However, they've been misconstrued and they've been misunderstood.
If a 25-year-old woman was watching this, would you say, I'm sorry for saying that?
Well, I wouldn't want.
No. Pierce is an interesting person. Piers is an interesting person. Here's the thing. Have you ever heard the expression, a hit dog will holler? The 25-year-olds, all the people that's upset about men talking about women being overweight tend to be the overweight women. All the women that's upset about men talking about high body counts tend to be the women with high body counts. If the shoe fits, wear it. When did we get away from that?
Want anyone to be offended by anything I say, but I say things. But I say things that offend, and this is the thing that's interesting, Piers. Please let me finish.
And this is the other thing. Why wouldn't you want people to be offended by what you say? Some things need to offend people. It's okay.
You're behaving like a politician. But hang on, you can say I'm interrupting.
You do,
but you're answering a different question to the one I asked you. So, as an interviewer, you're
sure. Okay, sure. Okay, let's sure.
Okay, you accept that. Let's accept we both got. Okay. So again, my point is simply, if a 26-year-old woman is watching this and has heard those comments, would you just say to her, look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that?
No, I won't. I will say that I am sorry that offends you. However, there's a large contingent of the world.
That doesn't mean you're sorry.
No, I'm not sorry. That's the point I'm making. I'm sorry if that offends you. However, there's a large contingent of the world that believe that, and I was mediating for a conversation.
Parts of the world that believe that about 26-year-old women are parts of the world where women are not allowed out on their own.
That's him reaching again. We talked about this on the last video. He's reaching.
They have to wear full burqas.
So that's a conversation.
They're not allowed to drive cars.
That's nothing to do with it.
But is that the kind of world for women that you?
I was mediating a conversation.
No, I'm asking you what you think.
I don't live in a country where that happens.
You're using that as the excuse for why you're not sorry for saying it.
It's not an excuse.
Is that there are parts of the world where this is fine?
My friend.
So my question to you is, well, do you think it's fine?
I don't think it's fine. I live in a world where
you don't think it's fine.
The reason
this isn't that hard, Andrew. You can simply say, Piers, you know what? With the benefit of hindsight, I wish I hadn't said it like that. And if a 26-year-old woman's watching, I'm sorry I said that, because that actually is blatantly misogynist. And even though that's a view held by other parts of the world, it's not a view I share. Now, I would respect you more if you said that than if you try and say, well, it's said in other parts of the world, so I'm not sorry.
I think
that doesn't tell me what you think.
Then you need to understand why my content exists.
Well, see, and this is what he about to say is important, but what's happening here is Piers Morgan is asking him, what's his view? What Tate is basically saying is, this is the view of the masses. That's why my content exists. But also, he's asking him, he's basically saying that if you believe that a 25-year-old woman is less valuable than such and such woman, then you're a misogynist. Do you agree? Do you agree with that? And he already said he wasn't a misogynist, basically. So, and to say that if you believe that, then you believe women should wear burqas and all of this stuff. That's not, those two don't, he's reaching.
Existed in the first place. My content existed because I tried my very hardest to be an absolute and utter realist, especially with uncomfortable truths. I was pointing out that very uncomfortable.
Is that a truth?
It's an uncomfortable truth in many parts of the world. It's not a truth that I'm happy about. It's not a truth I created.
Hang on. You're doing it again. What do you mean that's a truth in other parts of the world? That's what you said. It's not. You're not talking about another part of the world. You're talking about what you believe is the difference between 18 and 90-year-olds and 26-year-olds.
I was talking about
your belief.
I was talking about
which we have to talk about. This is statistically true. This is statistically true. The things that make a woman attractive to a man, her purity, her beauty, the redness of her skin, it's statistically true that as a woman gets up there in age, those things go away, and certain things like purity is true.
the people on the panel.
There's not a lot of 25-year-old
So
virgins
what do you think the
walking
difference is?
around.
I think the difference is age.
What's the difference then?
Well, then a 26-year-old's older than a 19-year-old.
And so you stand by what you said about talking to the guys, being to the club more times, being left to dump more times.
Well,
you
I-
believe that or not?
No, there's plenty of 26-year-old women who have been with one man or virgins,
Right.
of course.
So you don't believe that?
I don't think that the age is the only thing that's going to decipher how many men and women.
Right, so if you don't actually believe what you said, just say sorry.
It's not about not believing what I'm saying. It's about you understanding that there's large conversations going on.
I'm
in
just
this
reading
context.
back stuff you've said.
I know
and
you
I'm
are.
asking you, do you believe it?
I believe that it's more likely a 26-year-old's had more partners than a 19-year-old.
Right. You don't know that.
I don't know that. You're right.
In fact, there could be absolutely no evidence for that whatsoever.
Completely agree.
So why say it? Why stigmatize it?
It's a generalization that's true, Piers, based off the numbers.
It's all 26-year-old women.
It's not about, we're repeating ourselves here.
But not really. I'm just trying to get to what you actually believe.
I believe that men find youth attractive in general. I believe that in the context of the conversation,
25-year-old women aren't old.
I agree with you. They're not, especially I'm old. I'm a lot older than that.
Hmm.
The point I was making was part of mediating a conversation between feminists and some Muslim guys.
I get it.
Okay,
I get it.
good.
But
So you
weren't-
understand why I said the sentence.
But as far as I know, you weren't espousing what a Muslim man might think. You were espousing what you think.
I was espousing what the people on the panel believed.
But you were saying what you think.
I feel like you're trying to pin me down.
If it's not what you believe, just say, I don't believe that.
What part wouldn't I believe?
Well, you tell me which part you don't believe. There's the sentence. Which part would you now say you don't believe?
I believe that 25-year-old women perhaps have had, because they've been alive longer, maybe have had more partners, but I don't believe that makes them a bad person.
Right. But you understand that the way you phrased it makes every 25-year-old
I
woman
understand.
feel a bad person.
No, I don't think so.
No, it
did.
didn't. Nothing about what he said had anything to do with them being bad people. Bad wives, maybe, but not bad people. Come on, man.
Not stupid, Dad. Come on.
Piers,
Andrew, you're not stupid. You know what that sounds like to any 25, 26-year-old woman.
completely. And you're
Right? So you have maligned every 25, 26-year-old woman with that statement. And I'm simply asking you, to all those who are not of the type of women that you've described.
No, you've basically said these things are bad, Piers. You're saying these things are bad. I'm saying that these things are not desirable. There's a difference.
It. Are you sorry?
I don't want anybody to be offended by anything I say. I want to be a positive force in the world. I don't want anybody to hear what I say.
Hold on 1 second.
say and make them feel bad about themselves.
Mm.
I want all people to live righteous and good, whether they're male or female. And anybody who's
You lead a righteous life?
I think I do, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
You boasted openly of having 6, 7 partners at once. So is that righteous? I'm not taking there's no moral view from me. Simply asking you what you think righteous means.
I think righteous is living true to your heart and knowing that you're doing good by people, not snaking anybody, not lying to anybody. I know I live a very righteous life.
Have you ever been in love?
Yeah.
How many times?
Plenty. I believe in love between men and women.
No, real love, where
yeah. I believe.
How many times would you say?
Enough. I believe men and women are a beautiful union. I think we're slightly different, but when we work together, we're the most powerful force in the world.
How many women have you loved?
I don't know, Piers. A few.
Give me a ballpark. 5, 10, 20?
Let's say.
You don't forget how many people you've been in love with.
Let's say 10. I mean, I've been in love, and I certainly believe that men and women, when they work together, it's the most beautiful force on the planet. I believe in family. I believe in children. I believe in.
If you believe in family and children and love, why are you single?
I'm not single.
Well, you're not married. That's what I mean.
Well, if I was married, the last thing I would do is advertise it to the feral psychopaths on the internet. So
I'm not a feral psychopath.
Well,
you called me friend earlier.
Can be debated, Piers. But the point the point I'm making as a whole is that all of these.
Do you want to get married? Is my point.
No, but let's please for a second.
You don't, or you do?
Let's please for a second, because you've interrupted me so many times. I've failed to.
Well, actually, I've only interrupted you just to be clear when you've actually answered a different question.
Cool. Well, then on all these points you're making,
you've admitted that.
On all these points you're making on repeat, you're taking these sentences and on repeat you're you're weaponizing them against me.
I'm not weaponizing anything.
Okay, it's fine.
No. You're weaponizing the weaponizing, which doesn't exist.
No problem.
But you said to me, come on, bring it on. Read out all the things that you think are blatant misogyny. All I've done is literally read out all the things we identified from all the research that I thought were blatantly misogynist.
Understood.
And giving you the chance to respond. And the only time I've interrupted you is when you've tried to answer a completely different question.
Understood, Piers. But these things were said in large context where often I'm talking about how, for example, on the same podcast where you've read one of them sentences.
No. These things are not misogynist is what you should say right there. Now, obviously, the lights are bright. Obviously. I don't know if they had intermissions. Questions are being fired off. But the response should be, these things are not misogynist. I disagree with you. These are just male preferences.
I was talking about how it's a man's duty to die by a woman. And the guy asked me, he said, if 10 men with knives attacked your woman, wouldn't you just, I said, yeah, I'd stand and die. I'd never just run away because I have a duty as a man. I must die on the spot to protect her honor and my honor. I'm talking about.
If you're not in the red pill community, you don't realize that Tate is losing. Because one of the things that he keeps doing, that he knows, Rolo, he knows all these people. One of the things he keeps doing is making an appeal to his responsibility, but not his authority.
A man having responsibility to his duties. I'm talking about the old traditional ways of masculinity. And what happens is a few sentences from such a long conversation is taken. And
which these old traditional views of masculinity, which women are complaining they want back. This is what the women are saying that doesn't exist, that they want back, by the way. But every time they see it, they get so scared because they never seen it or they haven't seen it in such a long time that they don't really know how to react to masculine men.
I understand that.
So I want you to understand that I'm talking about protecting and providing for women. I'm talking about a man making sure.
Do you want to get married?
No, but we have to all feed into each other, Piers. I'm talking about protecting.
That's not a hard question.
No, but I'm talking about protecting and providing for a woman. I'm talking about a man being responsible for her safety.
I understand.
So of course I believe in men and women. Of course I believe in love. Of course I believe in marriage. Of course I believe in family.
No, but
the idea that I don't believe in the idea that I don't believe in these things.
I didn't
is crazy.
ask you if you believed in it. I asked you if you're going to get married.
One day, absolutely.
You'd like to.
You did ask him, but now you popping off another question.
If I'm not married already, I will be married one day. If I'm not,
well, you might be secretly married.
I could be married, correct.
Why would you not tell me either way?
Why would I advertise to the
Because he already told you why he wouldn't tell you, Piers.
The world who have tried their very best to destroy me for an opinion about my private life and the things that are most sacred to me. Why
you
would
think
I do
if
that?
you said you were married, everyone would hate you?
I don't know about people hate me. It's about me understanding that I'm a hard target, but I am very, very protective of the people I care about.
Right. But you believe in the concept of marriage.
Completely. That's what we were talking about the whole time.
What do you think?
We talked about a man giving a woman away.
Okay.
I believe in marriage more than anybody. In fact, I believe in marriage. No, please.
Okay.
I believe in marriage in the traditional sense. I believe a man has a duty to stand up and be a real man. I believe that the problem with the world today.
No, now tell me, see, this is what I'm saying, and this is what we gotta. What is the woman's duty? What is the woman's duty? That's what we're not talking about.
Facing is that not enough men are sticking to the age-old ways of
And
masculinity.
we're not going to talk about it as long as he keeps slipping and sliding and shit. We need to hear, bro.
I believe that me standing up and saying a man must protect a woman and provide for her, so he needs to make sure that she's safe. He needs a degree of authority to
I
protect
have no
her.
problem with.
But people do have a problem with it.
I'm not sorry.
And that's the world we're in
Andrew,
now.
I'm over here.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with what you just said. Here's where my problem comes, right?
You do have a problem with it because you don't want men to have authority. You do have a problem with it. Hold on. Somebody at the door.
There are a lot of clips of you floating around on the internet, as you know. One of them has you saying, bang out the machete, boom in her face, grip her by the neck, shut up, bitch. In another, you say, slap, slap, grab, choke, shut up, bitch, sex. When people see those clips and hear you say those things,
Agreed.
well, I don't think that.
Now what we got to deal with, first and foremost, what did he actually say? But now what we actually have to deal with, a lot of times we attack men for sharing the secrets of women. And you can understand why men would get attacked for sharing the secrets of women. But a lot of times we attack men for this. We say, man, you know, you shouldn't expose these unflattering truths about women. But it is what it is.
Other people would say, grab.
We talked about a man giving a woman away.
Okay.
I believe in marriage attacking me. So you don't understand. This is the exact point.
I do understand.
No, people don't watch them in full.
No, you don't understand, Piers. You don't.
This is actually what's interesting. And please don't interrupt me on this point. Social media has changed in modern times. I don't hate social media. I think it's a very powerful force.
Would say, whether it's consensual or not, that's a very ugly way to talk about women.
Completely.
Who cares if it's ugly or not? What are you talking about, Piers? If it's ugly or not? What? Come on, Piers.
Hitting them with machetes.
No, watch the whole video. It's a girl coming at me with a machete and me saying, here, slap the machete out of her hand. She's attacking me. So you don't understand. This is the exact point.
I do understand.
No, people don't watch them in full. And this is actually what's...
But if he was talking about, you know what I mean, stroking, listen, Alan Roger Curry, all of these guys talk about the duplicity of females, and I think men need to understand that. I think men need to get on that train and understand it.
It's interesting. And please don't interrupt me on this point. Social media has changed in modern times. YouTube 5 years ago was 5, 6, 7, 8 minute long videos. Now we have TikTok, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, YouTube shorts, Instagram stories. Now anything you produce that's long form is cut down to very, very short form. They're interested in clicks, they're interested in engagement. They find the most.
I don't like when Tate makes this argument. I'm tired of him saying that things getting chopped down, because the stuff that got chopped down is still stuff you should be standing on, and it is what it is. But you got to get him to say something.
They find the most controversial clips they can on purpose.
You benefited from all that.
Everybody benefits from social media views, as do you.
No, they don't. Right now, I got 0 viewers. Everybody's not benefited right now, nigga.
The Hustler, what is it
I had an
called?
online school,
Called
Hustlers University.
Right. And their whole job was to promote your clips, make you rich and famous. So you've benefited from this system, the one you now profess to hate. You've benefited from
I
all
never
that.
said I hated
You've
it.
clickbaited like the best of them.
I never said I hated it. I'm saying what happened.
So now he's cast another aspersion. He said you clickbaiting. Here's the heart of the discussion. Andrew Tate, do you believe in what you actually saying? And are you a good leader, Tate? Tate, are you going to send your men to step on those landmines? Or are you going to go out there on those landmines on your own and then tell your team to come? Tate, do you practice what you preach? Tate, are you who you say you are, or are you just a character? What do you think? Do you think Tate is who he says he is? Or do you think he's a character? Do you think this question by Piers Morgan is a legitimate question? See, why do I ask that? I don't believe that this is a legitimate question by Piers Morgan. The question of, is this who you really are, or is this just the act? I don't think that's a legitimate question. Because if you ask that question, you have to substantiate it. You asking him to substantiate that claim. Now you asking if he says that's who he really is, and that's not the character he playing. Now you got to go and delve into his personal life for evidence to prove that that's who he is. So I think it's a disingenuous question.
I don't hate it. I don't hate social media. I think it's a very powerful force. I don't hate the social media. I'm saying
The point is, I think you can talk. Look, you can talk to girlfriends of yours, maybe a secret wife. I don't know. It's entirely up
or
to
two.
You. Or two. Maybe you've got 10 wives. That's your business.
I
don't
like.
care, right. My only thing is,
I like to see Tate have fun. Tate's better having fun. You know, I like it. Like, and I understand it being taken out of context. You know, at the end of the day, there are times where he's obviously being sarcastic. Like we have all of these various forms of speech, sarcasm, irony, metaphors, all of this. And then you want to come to me and take out a quote of me being sarcastic. You want to come and take a quote of me using a metaphor. You want to come. No.
I don't care what you do in private. If it's consensual between you and another woman, you can do what you like, right? It's your life. I believe in freedom and liberty. It's when you say it in public, it's the influence that this kind of thing has.
Then you hold on, Piers. Do you believe in liberty in the private and the public, or do you only believe in liberty in the private? Because right now, based off what you're saying, you only believe in liberty in the private.
On young men.
Agree.
Right? And I speak to someone with 3 sons, right? It's who are, by the way, they're intrigued by you.
Because you are patrolling the consciousness.
They're fascinated, right? You're a big thing in that world of TikTok and so on. So they all are aware of you and what you say. So they're all looking. And when they see things like the machete thing, I get the context because I'm a 57-year-old guy who's been around the block a bit, and I can get.
So now y'all agree on that part about the nuance.
What you said, and you responding to a particular scenario which you'd created where a woman.
But it can be misunderstood.
I understand. So my point to you is, given that you know it can be misunderstood, do you regret saying things like this on camera where it can be disseminated by less intelligent young males?
No, Piers. Why do we blame misunderstanding on the speaker? Understanding is 2 ways. It's the speaker and the listener. Come on, man.
males who think that is actually what they should be doing to women.
And finally, we get to the point of the issue, which is the point I tried to make at the very beginning. When I made a video before I was famous that got 500 views, me being concerned that 1% of people will misunderstand it was not relevant. You start getting 5 million views a video, 50 million views a video, 1% of people misunderstanding
Doesn't change what
becomes no, it doesn't. But it becomes a much larger problem.
I understand.
So with great fame
That's true.
comes great responsibility.
Right.
So
I agree.
Would I, now that
Here's my
I'm famous,
yes.
do I say things the same way as I did back before I was famous? Absolutely not.
Right.
As neither would you or nearly any other famous person on the planet.
So
once you become famous, you have to be a lot more careful with how you say things.
I understand.
So, a synopsis. Tate is saying, I don't regret what I said in the past. But Piers is a professional, so Piers is saying, you don't regret what you said in the past, but you are saying you would say things differently. And what Piers is trying to do is bring those two things together like a Venn diagram. And he's trying to say that the regret, the fact that you're admitting you would say things different now, is saying that you regret how you would say things in the past. I love Piers. He's good at what he does. I love Piers. That's why I love Piers. He's a bulldog on the interview. He's like, and it's good. The problem is sometimes, listen, okay, I just learned something beautiful the other day. You know what I learned? I learned from Louis C.K. that the thing that engages people when they're watching a movie is character conflict. I said, that's interesting. I learned from Tom Likas that people say they want new music, really they want the same. They found that out in radio. I forget who I learned this from, but I also learned this. People come back if they like something and they disappointed versus being satisfied repeatedly. If you satisfy, disappoint, they come back. If you disappoint, they don't come back. So and if you satisfy, they don't come back. The point is retention. What brings people back? Why I like Piers Morgan is the conflict of character. He's a man's man, but he's a feminist. You know, Piers Morgan is a man's man, but he's a feminist. They exist. Blue pill alphas, they exist. Now, he's good at what he does. That's the whole point.
So my logical follow-up to that remains, do you regret then saying it the way you said it?
I can't live in regret by saying
I told you
something before I was famous on a camera, which barely anybody watched. And then I became.
No, Tate, just say, no, I don't regret it. Just say you don't regret it. Right now in this conversation, you see Piers Morgan, you see Andrew Tate, and then CueBracey. I'm the cut coach. I'm in the cut. He coming back after a round of kickboxing. I'm hitting his eyes, making sure he got Vaseline on him, and I'm telling him, I'm saying, hey, man, watch for this. Watch for that. Use that left hook. That's what I'm saying. Because I like Tate. I made a video about Tate. But I like Tate. I like his brother. I like those brothers. I disagree with points he make, just like Morgan Pierce disagree with points that he make. But I can look through that and see what's going on. So now, I like Piers. I like Tate. Obviously, I'm on the side of Tate because he's giving red pill truths. But I like Piers because he's a blue pill alpha. And when you look at books like Neil Strauss, The Game, you got the A-Mob, the alpha dude that's with the group, and you got to get past him. Right now, I'm telling Tate, you're not getting past the blue pill alpha. You got to get past this guy. How you going to get past this guy? And what's crazy is dudes fight for not only the attention of women, but they fight for the attention of other men. So when we're looking at this scenario, we're looking at what Piers Morgan brought up, the idea that Andrew Tate has an influence over young boys. See, in the book by Neil Strauss, it was just about having an influence on females and getting the A-Mog out the way. He's basically the Care Bear, the big Care Bear. He blocking, he deflecting everything. That's what he do.
Became famous afterwards. That would be a very asinine way to view the world.
So
I can't live in.
So you stand by all those things?
I can't live in regret because I didn't know I was going to become the most famous man on the planet. That regret would be the wrong word. Is it on? Is it
regret? Regret. I know Piers said his sons wrestle, but what that means is that Piers is competitive. He's in the sports. You can tell by how he is. He's a competitive guy. What Piers, when you wrestling or when you boxing somebody, you want the decision, but you prefer a knockout. You don't mind, but you rather choke somebody out. You know what I'm saying? Have them like on the mat. The whole regret conversation is like a TK, is like a KO, a knockout. Piers starts there. It's like when you negotiating, you just say the highest price. That's why I said Piers is skilled, because he starts off with, do you regret? And he stays on that. And even though Tate never concedes, he's on the mat the whole time. He ain't put him in a position to where he got to defend himself.
Convenient? Sure. But I can't sit here and say, I wish I knew 6 years ago I'd be the most famous man on the planet and monitored all of my speech forever. That's asinine.
You see, but one of the problems that people have with you is that they think you have a malevolent influence on you.
I got to talk about this right now. That's a very key statement. One of the problems that people have with you. Now, what human beings do that's very interesting. Piers started off talking about his own perspective, but because he's winning this fight, now he's talking about the people's perspective. And now he becomes a spokesman for the people. No. Same thing with Tate. So Piers started off by saying, Tate, what is your perspective? Forget the people you represent. What is your perspective? And Tate tried to play the position of a lawyer by saying, I mediate or a mediator. But now Piers is doing the same thing, but it's no pressure on Piers, so he could do it and just slip and slide.
Young people. This was the excuse that was put out by the big tech companies.
Excuse being the key word.
Well, it may be, actually. You know, I intrinsically, I have a problem with censorship. I don't think Donald Trump should be banned from Twitter, for example, because
this is where they agree.
The Ayatollah of Iran remains on Twitter and other social media platforms. And whatever I think of you, you're not the Ayatollah of Iran, right? So to me, there's got to be perspective here. And I don't understand the inconsistency by what companies like Twitter, how they treat the leader of Iran and someone like you. It seems to me they're much more draconian on people like you than they are with people who perhaps should not be allowed platforms. But generally, I don't really agree with no platforming people. But I think what's interesting talking to you is it seems to me like you have gone on a bit of a journey of self-awareness about the impact of some of the stuff you said in the past. And you have said you wouldn't say it again in the same way. Now, you may not want to express regret for that, but it shows me that at the very least, you have evolved to somebody who recognizes that these can be quite damaging in the way that you said them.
Completely. As a professional and as an adult, it would be stupid.
He's conceded. That was a TKO. It wasn't a KO. That was a TKO. It was a technical knockout.
For me to sit here and say that now that I'm the most famous man on the planet, my words do not have more impact than they did before. With impact, with power comes responsibility, and things need to be worded in a very careful way. Now, when I do a long format interview, I have to sit there and consciously understand that any 10 seconds of that can be cut and used against me. So I have to be a lot more careful with how I say my words and how I construct my sentences. Of course, we agree with all of that. That's exactly what's happened to me. I agree with all of that. I don't want to be seen as a negative influence in the world. I know that there's a whole bunch of men.
So now, when it comes to Hustler Studio, you got to add media training.
And I get thousands of emails a week from men whose lives I've saved. I get thousands of emails a week from men who are on the verge of suicide and I've saved their lives. We're talking about.
And by the way, I don't dispute that at all. You have almost certainly, I would think, from everything I've read about you, I think you have certainly been probably able to be very helpful to young men who have really struggled for self-confidence and all that kind of thing, right?
Completely.
I'm completely prepared to accept that. But there was also, I think, quite a disturbing piece that BuzzFeed did. And it talked about the negative impact of young, impressionable male minds when they've read or seen some of the more inflammatory things you've said. And they quoted, for example, Sandy, 22, from Washington. My father's gone from a man who minored in women's studies in college, who was kind and in touch with his emotions, treated all people, men and women around him, with kindness, to a man who says that whenever he sees an effeminate male stranger, he gets an overwhelming urge to murder them. He loves podcasts. He listens to a lot of podcasts. I know he's listened to Andrew Tate.
Whoa. Let's stop for a second. Let's be professional here, Piers, because you're a professional as am I. First, she said, did you say that my father went? She said, my father has gone.
Her father.
That's a full-grown man, firstly. So we're talking about my impact on children. You just talked about a full-grown man here. Secondly, I've never talked about murdering effeminate men in anything online ever, in any context ever. So I don't know why they have taken some random person I've never met in the world who's full-grown, an adult, and come to their own conclusions who I've never met and lumped his name in with mine. That is absolutely unfair on every level. I didn't read this BuzzFeed. I didn't read this BuzzFeed article, but after hearing the first point, I know it's trash. That is complete garbage.
What is
to say that I'm the reason this man believes what he believes.
I've seen a quote from you, and you can tell me what you feel here about this.
Sure.
You talk about people don't want to see men dressed up in dresses. Transgender.
That's not exactly what I said.
What did you say?
I said the reason I am so popular and I'm so famous is that there's a large contingent of men who don't want to wear makeup, who still want to make money, go to the gym, be strong, drive a fast car, be traditionally masculine, and don't want to be shamed for that, and they don't want to be called toxic for that. That is the reason I'm so massively famous. That is what I said.
What do you think of transgender people?
That's nothing to do with me. I'm not transgender, and I don't understand the issue like they do.
Are you transphobic? Do you consider yourself that?
Transphobic? What? Afraid?
Well, it kind of, yeah.
I don't live in fear, my friend. I have no problem.
Do you have a dislike of transgender people?
I don't know any transgender people.
Do you have a dislike of what they stand for, what they are?
No. Why would I?
I don't know.
That's not my issue. That's not my issue. And that's actually quite interesting because when I was attacked, a lot of these stupid articles like BuzzFeed, because it's ridiculous, that first point proves anyone with a brain knows that that's garbage. when they attacked me, they lump a whole bunch of things in together. They say misogynistic, racist, transphobic. They just put them all together at random.
No,
I'm mixed race.
By the way,
I don't know where they get these. They just get these buzzwords and put them in a sentence.
By the way, I completely agree.
It's
and
crazy.
I've had the same thing done to me.
Okay, well,
and
there
I'm
you go
not
then.
calling you anything. I'm asking you what you personally believe you are.
It's not an issue I discuss. What I do discuss is
So you
that
support transgender people?
I support individual liberty. I'm a libertarian.
Yeah. So you support transgender people?
Sure. Why not?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but my point is, as a whole, you're saying that I'm saying I don't want to see men in dresses. I'm saying no.
You support gay people?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's a large contingent of men.
Piers got him again. Piers got him again. Support transgender. No, I don't support transgender. CueBracey does not support transgender. CueBracey does not support gay people. It's against everything I believe in. Bring it up 20 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I don't support it. Period. What is wrong with these people? Let's deal with the reality here. The reality of saying that you support somebody or something means that you are down for their cause. It means you understand the nuance. Of their legislation, of their plight. I disagree. I don't support them because I don't understand what legislation they pushing. I don't understand their plight. And I also don't support them because it is against what I know to be true in the Bible. And I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. It's a big world out here. And there's a lot of things and a lot of issues. I'm looking at a map right now. We got North America, South America, Africa, Australia. It's a big world. Russia. It's a big world. And this is where being a public figure gets people into a lot of trouble. Because they will ask you how you feel about Uyghurs. You don't know nothing about Uyghurs. You haven't been out there. But you got an opinion. Meanwhile, back home, you have your own set of issues. It's a big world. It's so many issues in this world. So many issues. To support an issue means that I have to take a stance about many things that I know a little bit about. And this is a trick in mass media because mass media has convinced people that your stance has to be myopic, single-minded. Listen, we see it with Piers when he says, well, If you believe that, you put those women in the same class as women that wear burqas. Here's the reality. We have said that women that wear burqas and can't drive are unhappy. But what does the data say? Does the data say that? I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what the data does say. The data says that Western women, American women are less happy than they were 50 years ago. That's what the data says. When it comes down to transgenders, there's a lot of legislation that's harmful to the average man and woman, so I can't support it. I don't want a man penis swinging in the locker room with my daughters. I don't want a man competing with my daughters. I don't want this legislation. I don't want it. So much like Piers and Andrew Tate talking about the private versus the public, which I did a whole video on, I'm going to make a reference to that point. I don't care if you are a transgender and you want to have things work out in your private life to accommodate your transgenderedness. I care about your public life. I don't want you to be able to change legislation. I don't. Sue me.
Men in the world who like the idea of the traditional masculine view of the world, who feel happy when they watch 80s action heroes with big muscles and they run around. And there's nothing toxically masculine about having a fast car and a beautiful girlfriend and making a bunch of money. And
Nothing at all.
Absolutely. And those are the people who are my fans.
But the problem is, okay, I'm going to interrupt you just to say this. No.
Okay, but you're saying that I have a problem with men in dresses. I'm saying no. The people who watch my content.
Answer that question. You've answered.
Yeah, but the people who watch my content don't want to see men in dresses. Clearly, I don't wear a dress.
It's true. When I was a school teacher, I threw some bait out there and asked the kids about something gay. Hey, say what you want about these young boys, but they hard. They ain't going. They don't like it. They not going.
Dress. That's the point
That's
I'm
not
making.
why they're watching your content.
No.
You're not wearing a dress.
No, but that's the point I'm making. That's the point I was making. There's a large contingent of men who are not interested in the things that perhaps the YouTube algorithm's trying to feed them.
I think there are lots
of.
Look, when you support masculinity and masculine traits, I'm with you. Right?
Okay, so you agree a man should protect.
That's why I said that Piers is a blue pill alpha. Because Piers, listen, I would love to have some fish and chips with malt vinegar, you know what I mean, out there with Piers. Piers is, you know what I mean, he's a man's man, but he's blue pill.
Provide for a woman?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you agree if you were walking down the street with a woman, you'd be responsible with her safety?
Yeah.
Cool, absolutely. So if that woman wanted to walk alone,
I don't think I have authority over the woman as we do that.
Okay, so let me ask.
That's the blue pill logic right there.
Ask you another question, Piers, because we are professionals. Let's say your woman.
We 44 minutes in the video, he just started digging into his mind.
Decided she wanted to take a nice little walk through the south side of Chicago at 2 a.m. and she wanted you to go with her, and you were responsible for fighting and dying on the spot if she was attacked. Don't you think you would say to her, no, we're not going out right now. It's not safe.
Yes.
Okay, so you'd have authority to make the decision. So
no, I wouldn't. So I would say, I don't think you should. If she decides to, it's her own volition.
Well, if she decides, you're not going to stop her.
I have no power to stop her.
Completely.
But you think you...
See, that's Piers on that bullshit. You don't got no power to stop her, but we talking about her obligations and we talking about your obligations. So if she decides to go, do you still have to defend her? Do you have to be home when she get back home? Is she going to see one of them niggas on the south side or one of them whatever, one of them people on the south side that's motherfucking stroking her throat. You sitting at home like a bloke trying to cope. Come on, man.
You do.
No, I don't think I have power
You
to stop
clearly
her.
do.
No, I think I have power to make the decision. I think, no, that's not
So
sensible.
if you have the power to make the decision, you have the power to stop her.
No,
because
you
that's-
don't. Man. Why don't people get that men have the ability to engage and not engage? They think men just supposed to go for anything.
That's where we differ. That's why I think it's interesting about you. I don't think you really think through what you're saying.
I think through what I'm
No,
saying
see, Piers, no. No.
Because what-
so
Yeah,
carefully.
but Andrew, what
Piers.
you've literally just said is that you have the power to stop
No,
her.
I said I don't have the power to stop her. I'm not going to lock her in the room. I'm saying that
So if
as
she
a-
wants to go on her own,
then she's going to go.
then
But
you
as a
don't have
couple-
authority to stop
Okay,
her.
but as a couple, if we're going to sit there and decide if we're going to take this,
You
late-
asked me, would I feel a sense of responsibility for her safety? Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
So
Would
let
I
me finish,
have the
Piers.
power or authority to stop her doing it? No.
No, of course not. So let me finish, Piers. You're not going to stop her walking out the hotel. Of course, it's her decision. She's a sovereign individual. My point is that usually in a couple, you sit there as a team and you discuss, and perhaps on certain issues, the woman will know more about X and she'll decide X, and the man might know more about Y and he'll decide Y. So I'm saying if we're as a couple and we're sitting there and deciding as a couple, as a team, and she says she wants to take this late night stroll, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to veto this one. I'm going to call
But
veto.
do you
on this one
believe
because
in-
it's dangerous,
Right.
which to a degree would give me, in that particular scenario, a degree of authority. If she said, I don't want to listen to you,
It
Andrew,
doesn't give you authority.
she says,
Why do men have to just minimize their authority? Be like, which would give me a particular little bit of. Come on, man. Grab your nuts.
I don't want to listen to you, Andrew. I want to go on that walk. Then what can I do? Say, well, then
Then you don't have authority.
Then I hope.
What can you do? This is what you should have thought about the whole time. You could be like, you know what? You're not my girl no more. And that's what women don't like. If you want Andrew Tate has rules.
I wish you the best,
I mean,
my love.
Then you don't have authority.
Cool. Then it's a semantic argument.
Not really.
I think it
It's
is.
the complete opposite of what you said you had, which was authority.
No problem, Piers. No problem. But I think
Let
we
me ask
actually
you about what do you believe about depression? Do you believe depression is a real thing?
I believe that feeling
This is what I like this conversation a lot.
depressed is real. I don't believe depression as a clinical disease is real now.
Really?
Correct.
You don't believe people can be clinically depressed?
I think PTSD is very real. Unfortunately, I have some friends who suffer from that. I know that feeling depressed is real. I believe that the number one power you have against these things are trying to take control of your own mind and affecting your own life. I believe that it's not healthy to hand over all your power and believe that depression is an outside disease that you can't affect. I know that when I've had difficult periods in my life, and also many of my friends, like I've said, suffer from PTSD and been through terrible things. I've lived a very difficult life, and I know people who have. That the things that made them feel better is when they woke up and said, you know what, I'm not going to allow this to damage me anymore. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to get up and I'm going to fight this as hard as I can.
And by the way, on that, I agree.
So we agree.
My favorite speech is the Rocky Balboa one.
Okay, so then we agree. No, we didn't.
Here's where we don't agree.
Piers.
You don't. No,
He's too happy to agree, so Piers got to shoot him down.
You got to let me
sure
interject when I don't agree with you,
sure.
right? Where I don't agree with you is that there's no such thing as clinical depression. There absolutely is.
Well,
it's a proven scientific medical reality.
I don't know where Tate gonna go with this. I do know, but he didn't go in the right direction. Listen, now what we asking is to believe the science, approving clinical whatever. I have experience going against doctors. I have an experience going against judges. I have an experience of going against lawyers. I don't put any of these men with titles over me. Excuse me. God bless me with a solid mind to be able to think. When I deal with these men, I don't make them my God. And a lot of these men have God. A lot of these institutions have a God complex. We just had a whole 2 years of setbacks based on people saying, believe the science. We just had 2 years of people saying, believe the science. Believe God. Believe Jesus. Fuck the science. The science. When did it become blasphemous not to believe the science, but okay not to believe in Jesus? When did it become blasphemy? Because at the end of the day, what Piers is talking about right now in a nutshell is believe the science.
There's a different argument about have we gone a bit too soft, right? In schools and all the rest of it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think some?
Who is we? Who is we? Who allowed us to go soft? The people that prescribed the medicine? Who allowed us to go soft? Because those people are dope pushers. They'll give you something if you ain't got nothing and convince you that you have it. So when you say that we have gone soft, did mom and dad go soft? Or did mom and dad take their child, or did mom or whoever, grandma, take their child and the doctor was able to say, oh, you suffer from depression. And the mom said, okay, God, he suffers from depression. What do you think I should do?
Some people moan and whine too much about their lot in life. Definitely.
Okay.
Are we a victimhood society? 100%.
Okay.
Is there such a thing as clinical depression? Absolutely.
So,
and my argument is that if you actually bracket everybody who's not clinically depressed and doesn't have the genuine medical condition, then actually if millions of people are deemed to have depression, the ones who really need the help don't get it. Well, that's my point.
Well, that I would agree with. You're right. I think it's certainly an overused term.
But you don't accept there is such a thing as clinical depression.
No, I don't.
And that to me is a damaging view.
Okay. Well, let me explain why. If someone comes,
that's not a damaging view. That's just saying I don't believe in doctors. What's damaging about that? You believe in doctors. I don't believe in doctors like that. That's all he's saying. You can make it. Why is it that we say that people's point of view has an impact on other people because those people don't have the ability to reason? Why do we blame a person with a point of view for other people's inability to reason? I'm going to let you ponder on that.
To me and says I'm clinically depressed or I feel very, very sad, I would say the first thing you need to do is stop accepting the identity of a clinically depressed person. Stop accepting you have no control over this. And what you need to do is stop identifying that way, and let's work together to try and fight against it.
There isn't an eminent doctor in the world who would tell you there is no such thing as clinical depression. Who would not tell you that some people it's simply beyond their control.
Johann Hari wrote a book saying exactly that, my friend.
He's not an eminent doctor.
No, but he's
a journalist.
I said depression wasn't real long ago and was attacked for it. Then Johann Hari wrote a book, which
What's
actually
got to do with Johann Hari?
Because he wrote a book proving me right. Most people.
Johann Hari's a journalist.
Sure, and my point is that a lot of people who are clinically depressed are suffering with something in their life, and if you fix the problem in their life, perhaps they won't feel depressed anymore. That's not a disease.
Yeah, but Andrew,
that's situational.
Andrew, you're simply wrong.
If that's what you believe, Piers.
That's what I believe.
I don't believe in things that take power away.
There is not an eminent doctor in the world.
Piers
would agree with it.
Piers.
Do you think you know more than doctors?
I can't become clinically depressed.
Why do you know?
Because I don't believe in it. I can't be haunted by a ghost if I don't believe in ghosts.
Well, that's like saying I'm never going to die because I don't believe in it. It's ridiculous.
Perhaps, but if it allows me to live a life where I feel happy and
content
within myself.
This is that little area where you lose me.
No, I don't lose you.
You won't, because Piers, somebody with your following says
the thousands of people who have emailed me saying my doctor told me I was clinically depressed and it's a disease that I have got in my brain and I can't be fixed. And I started listening to you and I realized that that's not the case and I can fix my own life. And you're the only person who has ever helped me.
Oh, Andrew.
Thousands of people have emailed me that exact email.
If you think you are single-handedly curing people of clinical depression, you are living in cloud cuckoo land.
I am reading the emails of people who I have cured of clinical depression.
You're reading emails from people who have believed you when you say there isn't such a thing, and they've probably never been diagnosed.
Why can't a man take credit for his accomplishments?
Clinical depression. They just want to go along with what Andrew Tate says.
I don't think so.
I think your view of that is view is dangerous.
I respect that you think my view is dangerous, and I respect you have the right to view that, to think that. I think that clinical depression, I actually agree with you, is massively overdiagnosed. I've already said that PTSD is a very real thing. I've already said
I didn't. No, hang on.
Okay.
Again, you misquoted me. I did not say clinical depression is massively overdiagnosed. I said that people who claim to be depressed.
Piers will not be misquoted, but Piers has misquoted Andrew Tate. But Andrew Tate is supposed to lose this debate because Piers Morgan has been doing this for a long time. And hopefully Andrew Tate from this situation can learn and get some media training. Maybe he can add that to Hustle University, like I said, because when you're dealing with people like Piers Morgan, you dealing with trained assassins. They good at what they do.
But don't have clinical depression. I think that is massively overblown, right? In other words, there are a lot of people who just have a bad.
better.
Have you seen
Now, I'm not saying it's the case for everybody.
No.
I'm just
Here's
saying.
my question, though.
I'm
have you
just-
seen the guy's medical records?
Of course not. I just told you the
So
story.
you're just taking his word for it.
Oh, I am taking the word of a man who emailed me with a bunch of medication and specific.
So you're
doses.
denying proven science because one guy writes to you who you help and you've not seen any evidence he ever had clinical.
Piers has been denying proven science this whole time. Attraction, all of that science. We try to make it cultural. It's science. A lot of the issues that we have with gender right now boil down to science.
Depression diagnosed.
I'm denying the idea that.
And on the back of it, you go on your rants in public to tens of millions of people denying something because this guy writes to you and says he had it and you cured him. And I think that's a dangerous mindset, Andrew.
That's fine.
And that's where you don't have a responsible view of your influence over
Disagree. It's very responsible because I'm saving people's lives. I disagree that if you feel depressed, I disagree that you cannot affect it and change your life and take control and fix yourself and feel happier. I disagree with that.
Do you think
I refuse to accept that there are people out there who cannot become happy, contented individuals. I refuse to accept we live in a world where God has created people who, no matter how hard they work and how good their life becomes, can't be happy. I don't accept that. I accept that the universe is a very giving place and that God loves all of us. And if you try your best and you work hard, you can become a better person. And I also will argue with you, and I'll counter the point that you sitting here on your platform telling people they have clinical depression, there's nothing they can do about it, is far more dangerous. Okay, well then, if they have clinical depression.
Why do you misquote me?
No, because you're saying.
You hate being misquoted.
No, you're saying if people have clinical depression, that
I never said
they
there's
have a
nothing to do
disease.
about it. They go to a doctor and they get diagnosed and they get help.
Then I would argue the point that if
It's the complete opposite of what you just said I said.
I would argue the point that if somebody has depression of any kind, whether it's clinical, whether it exists or not, whether they feel depressed or not, whatever, that taking control of their life, taking personal responsibility, and working hard is always going to be the positive, best thing they can possibly do for their life going forward.
How positive is it?
So sitting here saying, I don't believe in clinical depression, you don't believe in depression. No, I don't. I believe that people can take control and fight against things.
Right.
I believe in personal sovereignty.
Right. Fine.
Good. So we agree.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Piers, you're on my side. You're afraid of being canceled along with me.
As I said to you from the start,
that's all
I
it
agree
is.
with a lot of what you say.
Completely. So we're
But
talking
I'm
about.
taking you to task over the stuff I don't agree with.
Sure.
And I'm just not sure you understand why it's wrong, which is in itself quite revealing. Let me talk to you about Alex. Let me talk to you about Alex Jones, right? Who I have a bit of history with. He tried to get me deported from the United States.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. What is your view of Alex Jones?
I think that Alex Jones is a sovereign individual who very much like the.
He got him answering questions. In a minute, he gonna ask him, what do you think about people that have ashy knees and black stuff on the bottom of their feet?
Rabid left deserves a chance to speak on his points of view. I think that the truth on issues is usually somewhere in the middle between two extremes. And
So you think Sandy Hook was staged?
I don't know anything about Sandy Hook.
Really? You know he's just been sued by the families for
No.
millions and millions.
I have no idea.
You don't know anything about it?
No.
So why would you support someone in public when you know nothing about the most infamous
When
thing
have I
attached to
supported
it?
him in public?
You have supported him in public.
I've been on his podcast.
Yeah, but you said nice things about him.
I say nice things about lots of people.
What do you think of Alex Jones?
I said nice things about you, Piers.
That's fine.
so
you should. I'm a nice person.
So to sit and say that I've been on a podcast and I say nice things about
But
him
you
means
said
I
you support his.
That's like Piers saying, if I have Andrew Tate on, I support what he's saying when you saying he's a misogynist.
Right to speak about things like Sandy Hook.
I don't know Sandy.
Alex Jones has been extremely accurate about a lot of things. The things he was inaccurate on, he dug his heels in, just like the things he's accurate on. And it's unfortunate that he did that on things he was inaccurate on. But at the end of the day, you know, it's like the $1 Million Baby when Morgan Freeman was talking to the lady who was a boxer. The same thing you hate about a great boxer is what you love. They stubborn and stuck in their ways. It's the conflict of character. If Andrew Tate was to straighten up, he wouldn't even be interesting. If Morgan Piers didn't have a conflict, he wouldn't even be interesting.
Sandy Hook. I don't know. And
You know what it was?
it was a mass shooting
Of school children.
Okay, but to sit and
he,
it's actually no. Let's stop for a second. Please don't interrupt me. Here's why I know why you're good at your job. First, you interrupt people a lot, which is good. It's a good skill,
Actually,
and then there you go. Prove me right.
But here's
and the timing's good.
Here's exactly what I do. I only interrupt people like you when you either refuse to answer the question or answer a completely different one.
Sure.
And I want to remind you of what the question was.
Fair.
Or when you misquote me back, which you've done repeatedly through the interview, where you say, "You see, Piers, you agree with me," and the viewer who's been watching will go, "No, he didn't."
Cool, no problem. The other thing you do is you try and set these traps like now. So you're saying
what's the trap you think I'm setting?
You're saying that I agree with every single point of view a man has.
I literally didn't say that.
You're saying, well, you support Alex Jones.
Why would you misquote me?
Because you're saying you support Alex Jones, and you said you've been on his podcast, and he said this. I don't know.
What do you think of Alex Jones?
I don't know everything he said.
What do you think of him?
I think on his podcast he was cordial. I think he was professional on his podcast. I've also done podcasts with rabid leftists and people who openly hate me.
Is it wrong?
I do a podcast circuit.
Okay.
So, and I don't know everything he's ever said.
When somebody like,
and I don't know what, so I don't know what you're trying to get me here because I did a podcast.
If you let me get a word in edgeways, I'll tell you.
It's a lame trick.
If you let me get a word in, I will tell you.
Let's go.
Alex Jones said that Sandy Hook didn't happen. It was staged by actors.
Okay.
This compounded the appalling grief of the families of those poor 20 children who were gunned to pieces by a lunatic with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. They were already grief-stricken beyond belief. And this guy poured petrol onto that grief quite deliberately to make a huge amount of money from his InfoWars fake news bullshit. And as a result, a lot of the family...
He got something against Alex Jones, fake InfoWars bullshit. You should have something against a man that try to get you deported. But I don't think at this point it's an objective interview. Peace.